Hello, my name is Nathalie Toublanc. I'm Associate Director in the Learning Services team. And today I'm going to explain to you how to perform a legacy import in GPX. So the agenda is quite simple for this short video. First, I'm going to show you really how to import a GastroPlus database into GPX. And then, if needed, I'm going to explain to you how to rearrange the imported database to make the most of the reusable asset. So before I get into GPX, I want to show you the GastroPlus database that I'm going to import. You can see that there are 4 drug records, midazolam in silico, human IV, and 2 human PO records. So now I am in GPX and I'm on the dashboard. So to perform a legacy import, it's pretty simple. You go into the existing section and you click on the gray square next to legacy import. Then you need to go to the folder where your database is. And you click on open and you wait for a little bit for the import to be accomplished. So now we had that table which appeared, and you can see that the import was successful because you've got the project name of the database, midazolam PKPD. You can see on the left-hand side that the navigation pane, all the views are activated now, and you've got this table. So this table shows you what has been imported, and it shows you that it's successful. It's not very practical to have a look into that, but there is something which is quite nice, in that if you open your folder, you will see that you've got a file which is called midazolam PKPD legacy import summary.csv. So when you do an import of a database from GastroPlus to GPX, you will always get this Excel file. So you can just open it. And here you can see everything that has been imported. As I was showing you before, 4 drug records. In GastroPlus, they are in the order that they were created. In GPX, they are in alphabetical order. And you can see that all the records have been imported successfully, and we've got different compounds. So why do we have different compounds? It's because when GPX imports the GastroPlus database, it checks in each of the records whether the property of the compound are the same as for the previous record or not. So for the first record, the midazolam in silico, it's compound 1. And then for the second one, which are the human IV bolus and PO tablet water, some of the properties have been changed with in vitro measurement, and so it's compound 2. Then GPX continue to check, and for the fourth record, which is the human PO tablet 15 milligram grapefruit, there is a change in the enzyme due to the inhibitory activity of grapefruit juice. So the enzyme is not exactly the same as for compound 2, so that's why it named it compound 3. For the other thing, you can see that for each of the assets, GPX took the name of the record of the GastroPlus database and added at the end of it the name of the asset. So here you can see you've got human IV bolus 5 milligram drug formulation, human IV bolus 5 milligram dose schedule, and the same for the physiology schedule, and for the simulation. So now we are going to go back to GPX. So the first thing that we are going to do, and that we should do every time, whatever we want to do with our project, is to rename the compounds, because compound 1, 2, and 3 is not very practical. So it's very easy. Compound 1 was the in silico, so we are going to rename. And then for compound 2, we are going to call it midazolam in vitro. And for compound 3, we are going to rename it midazolam grapefruit juice, so that we know what the differences are. So now, if you only imported your project so that it's now available in GPX, you can stop at this point. However, if you want to continue working on that project, and if you want to make use of the reusable assets of GPX, then we recommend that you do some renaming and remapping to eliminate the assets that are redundant. And it's going to become clearer when I explain. In order to do that and to make sure that the mapping is correct, what we are going to do is we are going to do the renaming going down the navigation pane, so from the dosing to the simulation. And once we've done that, we are going to go back up the navigation pane, so from the simulation to the dosing, and we are going to double check that the mapping was correctly done, and we are going to delete the assets that are redundant. So let's start with that. So for the dosing, we've got the formulation, and here you can see that the formulation are very specific. And in GPX, that's not what we want. We want to have formulation that are as general as possible so that we can reuse them. So we are going to rename it, and we are just going to rename it IV bolus. Click OK. And then we are going to go to the second one, which is the tablet water. And we want to have a formulation which is the tablet. So we are going to rename it. Just call it tablet. For the moment, we are not going to do anything with the formulations that are left here. We'll do that on the way back. So now we are going to go to the dosing schedule. And there we are going also to rename some of the assets. So the human IV bolus 5 mg dose schedule is a very long name. So we are going just to call it IV bolus 5 mg. Okay. And then we are going to go to the next one. So the tablet water. And we are going to rename it just 15 mg tablet, because the dose schedule doesn't matter whether it's been dosed with water or with grapefruit. Okay, and you can see that the tablet that we renamed here is properly mapped. So now we are going to move to the physiology. And we are going to take one of the physiology, which is not the in silico, just to be sure that it's the proper one. In GPX, the physiology takes into account the disposition, but also the gastrointestinal. So we want to make sure that it's the correct one. So we'll take the human IV bolus and we're going to rename it. We know that for our database, we've got only one physiology, and we're going to give it as short name as possible. So I'm deleting the first part. And then I've got my physiology, so the one that can be used for all of them. So I can map the other one. So the MDZ in silico and MDZ in vitro, so they are all linked to this physiology. In the pharmacokinetic, we don't need to do anything, so we can move to the physiology schedule. So the physiology schedule will only change if the physiology changes. In our case, we've got only one physiology. So again, we are going to rename it. And again, I prefer to take a physiology from one of the records on which I worked and not the in silico one. So I'm going to rename it. And I will call it physiology schedule IVPO, just so that we know what we're talking about. Okay, and now we can go in the simulation and we can try to run each of the simulation. We need to double check that the mapping is correct. So human IV bolus, we can see that the compound is MDZ in vitro, the dose schedule is IV bolus 5 milligram, the physiology schedule is physiology schedule IVPO, and the pharmacokinetic model is physiologically based. So this is fine. We are going to check the tablet water. For the simulation, if we wanted, we could also rename the simulation, but at this point in time, I don't want to, but you know how to do that now. So again, for that one, we can see the compound is the MDZ in vitro. The dose schedule is the 15 milligram tablet. We need to change the physiology schedule because we want only to keep the one which is suitable for all of them. So it's the physiology schedule IVPO, and the pharmacokinetic is physiologically based. And we can see that it's working fine as well. So finally, we're going to check with the human PO tablet 50 milligram grapefruit simulation. And the dose schedule is not the right one. So we are taking the 15 milligram tablet. The compound is correct. The physiology schedule needs to be changed to the one which is suitable for all of them. Now it's just a warning saying that we need to map that as well. It's very easy because the physiomolecular properties are the same for all the compound. So I just click on select and then it's fine. So now I'm going to run the simulation. And we can see that it's fine. It means that everything is mapped correctly. So we've done more than half of the work, and now what we want to do is to delete the assets that are not needed anymore. So for the simulation, the one that we want to delete is the midazolam in silico simulation, and you see that you get a message whether we really want to do that. So yes, we do. For the physiology schedule, we want to delete all the ones that are not needed anymore. Pharmacokinetic, again, we don't need to do that. Physiology, now we are going to delete the other one. So the midazolam in silico fasted. This one. And this one. So now we just have one physiology, which is what we wanted. In the dosing, we are going up again. So we are going to start with the dosing schedule. And we are going to delete the human PO tablet. And finally, the formulation. In the compound, I'm going to keep the 3 compounds because the advantage of having the midazolam in silico will be that I will have the property that were predicted by ADMET Predictor. So now I can save. And I can run simulation. We've got the 3 curve. And if I remove the IV bolus, then we can see that we've got our 2 oral curve. It means that now you've got a project where you've got reusable assets to make the full use of GPX. So just as a reminder at the end of this tutorial is that you need to rename and map the asset going down the navigation pane. You need to check the mapping and delete the redundant asset when you're going back up the navigation pane. And if you have any refresh issue, you can save and shift between the asset and it will solve that. With that, I hope that you learned something today. And if you have any question, feel free to contact us at education@simulations-plus.com. Thank you for your attention.